The cannabis world is lit up these days, so we have to talk about it. And the big news these days has been all about Tilray. We're going to get to that. We have Kevin Curran with us right now, Real Money reporter, and AAP research analyst, Zev Fima. Zev, we got to talk about Tilray first. The stock was up 20% right after Jim Cramer interviewed him on his Mad Money show. The next day, the stock goes to 90, up 90%, and then what?
I mean, I think that 90% move that you saw was a short squeeze, right? A lot of people were in there, they short the stock, and then when the stock just keeps running and running, they decide they can't take the pain anymore, so they go in, they have to buy shares to close out their short, and that in turn drives the shares up higher. And then you see what happened today. People realize there's this high price, book profits, or they decide to initiate their own short position.
But this is the problem, Kevin, with the whole thing right now. It is so speculative, and no one understands what to do. I know you just had a big interview with the CEO of Canopy.
Yeah, so Bruce Linton said exactly the same thing. He was worried about how speculative the market is in terms of being reminiscent of the dot-com bubble. So he was saying to me that there's a lot of companies out here, there's not enough businesses. People are betting on companies that don't have any sales. So we are going to see a lot of companies disintegrate before we find the real Googles in the haystack here.
I think a lot of it has to do with education. And you guys know that all morning I've been trying to educate myself. Thanks to you two, I'm way better. If it's important that I'm educated about cannabis, I am now. Let's talk first about CBD versus THC. CBD is the part that gives you energy and makes you feel good.
Well, yes, I mean, I think THC probably does some of that as well, but the real thing with CBD is it's not psychoactive, right? Yeah. So if you have something that's 100% CBD, this is kind of the strain that really got the attention in the medical world was the CBD component of it. You can look up Charlotte's Web, which is about this little girl in Charlotte who really benefited greatly from a CBD-heavy strain. And
because it's helping epilepsy and seizures and things like that.
Right? Without the high, right? Without the head high. So the thing to keep in mind is a lot of different companies they're going for different strategies. So Coca-cola, we saw they were interested. They want the CBD aspect of it. They don't want to sell you Coca-Cola that makes you high. They want to sell you Coca-Cola that just kind of gives you a relaxing.
And I think this is the point that was missed dramatically. Like everyone reads the headline, right? Cannabis and Coke. Yeah, I know. So all of a sudden I'm going to have a soda and I'm going to get high and I'm not going to be able to work the rest of the day.
No, well, I think this is going to be a disruptor in a couple different markets. I think Coke, for example, they bought Body Armor recently. I think that they could use this for something like a sports recovery drink even. I know that Bruce Linton last night was talking to me a lot about how he thinks that a lot of markets are worried about this. And that includes sports recovery, energy drinks, and even pet markets. So it could really go a number of different ways. It's not going to leave you on the couch all day.
Whereas THC will.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what's going to get you like buzzed, right? And the sports recovery aspect, CBD is good for inflammation. So after a workout, you want to prevent some inflammation. That's kind of where the CBD comes in. But yes, the THC is what maybe the alcohol companies are interested in because they're starting to see that in the markets where marijuana becomes legal, there is an impact to beer sales. So THC would compete with that a little bit because if you are going out, you do want that buzz, then THC is what you're going for, not CBD.
Yeah, and I think it was important to touch upon the strains as well that we've been discussing
because
today.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. It's Sativa versus Indica.
Yeah, Sativa and Indica. And as we were joking earlier, Sativa is satellites. It's more of a head high. You can kind of have more of an upbeat attitude. And Indica is more of a relaxation couch, as people say. So
everyone's going to remember that.
It's a perfect mnemonic to remember. And I think the more people become educated on different types of strains and effects, that'll be...
But it's a strain from what?
It's a cannabis strain.
It's a cannabis strain, to be clear. Okay. The other thing then we start to question is the delivery system of this.
Right.
Where are you getting it?
So probably the biggest issue with marijuana, the thing that I think will hold doctors back from prescribing it as medication is smoking. Is even if it's marijuana, tobacco, it's still smoking. Like it's still not going to be good for your lungs. So that's
asthma.
So that's where the delivery system comes in. And they have, you can get soft gel capsules. They have vaporizers, which still is probably not as ideal, but a healthy alternative to smoking. They have like tinctures where you can kind of just drop it under your tongue. And then of course there's the edibles market, brownies, chocolates, gummy bears, things like that. I think the delivery system is incredibly important because that's what's going to allow us to really dose out amounts, tell someone how much they should take. Because what we were talking about before is, like, my biggest issue with the medical marijuana space is you shouldn't be told just have some marijuana. You're not told, like, take some Vicodin. take some Oxycontin. They tell you exactly how much.
Well, if I can build on that too, is you're mentioning brand names, Vicodin, Oxycontin. I think that that's a huge thing about getting these different delivery methods as well. If you have raw cannabis, you're not differentiating your product at all. You have an agricultural good, a commodity. If you're making drinks that are Coke branded or Pepsi branded or all of these different things, you can differentiate your brand as the premier brand in the cannabis space and consumer packaged goods.
Because at least I trust Coke is what you're saying.
Yeah, or Constellation Brands,
or Constellation
which
Brands.
is obviously the biggest player.
It's a great segue though to let's talk about now the companies. We need to know if I am going to invest in this. This is not going away. Let's be clear, right? Much to my dismay as a mother, it's not.
It's been around for what, thousands of years.
Yeah, I know, but it hasn't been on the street corners as visibly as it probably will be. But that being said, it's not going anywhere. Is it a .com bust?
I think, to an extent, there are a lot of similarities.
So there's going to be excuse the expression, a weeding out.
Yeah, you're gonna have to kiss some frogs before you find the
you have companies that are public now with hundreds of millions of dollar valuations, and they literally just started doing sales within the last 2 weeks. And I wouldn't call it like Bitcoin, because with Bitcoin you're not expecting sales, you're not expecting earnings, there's no return on capital, anything like that. But I do think there are similarities with the .com bubble in that you're betting on these companies developing entire new industries. And the problem is, I mean, the Street.com, this is a company that made it, survived the .com bubble. I mean, you will have companies that come through, they thrive, they come out of this. But for every company that made it out of the .com bubble, like 100 disappeared off the face of the earth.
I don't think anybody's doubting the size of the market and the opportunity here. I mean, we have test cases in Washington, Colorado, or even the Netherlands, and Amsterdam, where it's been legal. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry in that country, which has 17 million people. You move that to 330 million people, where according to Gallup polls, 25% of people 18 to 24 use marijuana. This is a massive. I
would argue it's higher.
It might be higher, but
we all doubted that statistic.
But that's a massive market. It's just going to come down to when these companies consolidate, who's going to win that market share.
So, who do you think's going to win, Kev? Can you guess?
Well, right now I would bet on Canopy. I think that they have the distribution networks that are necessary to take advantage of the market.
And they're using it for medicinal purposes.
Medicinal and recreational.
They are using it for both.
Their thing with Constellation, like they're really going after the recreational, but they also have Spectrum Cannabis, which is their medical division. Tweed is kind of how they sell it.
But that's a Canadian-based company.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
But it has regulatory approval in Canada, in the European Union and Germany for medical marijuana.
And thanks to Constellation, U.S. distribution is completely locked down once it goes legal.
And a $4 billion head start from Constellation as well.
So that's actually, we were talking about this earlier too. So they have money. There's money on their balance sheet.
Looks really good because of that injection of capital from Constellation.
Very different from the .com era when everything was just red.
I just want to be clear, they are losing money right now. I mean, their earnings, it is a loss, but they have the money there to do that loss. You have Constellation that has warrants that will give them ownership rights beyond 50%. I mean, Constellation is in there. And personally, when I was first looking at the space, whenever anyone asks me now or asks me in the past, like, which company do you go to? Tilray, I mean, it's a great company and everything. They do have a lot of really key deals going on, but the valuation on Canopy is more attractive. And the other thing is, Constellation Brands management team has a proven track record of successful M&A activity.
For sure.
Especially as a home gamer, you're only going to be able to look at a business so in depth. But the guys at Constellation, they had a very good look at more than just Canopy, I'm sure, and they decided to bet on
Canopy. And they have the
Canopy.
first mover advantage. They're the first ones. So.
But at the same time, it is a very small piece of their bottom line. I mean, it's still Corona at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Fair, but they're not betting on where it is now. They're betting on where it's going to be.
So
they're skating to where the puck is.
I love the analogy. That's a great point.
Right, and also talking to the valuation, I mean, Tilray, we already discussed why that thing went hyperbolic yesterday.
But it still could come back and be okay and settle out, no?
Not 970 times sales as of this morning. It's down now from that, but that's about twice what Canopy's valuation is, and I believe Canopy's doing about 2 times the sales.
Should we talk about Cronus? No.
I mean, I think that's just another
one. Well, Cronus is almost an also-ran. It's not to the level of Tilray and Canopy.
And then the other option, too, is to talk about, I guess, the pharma companies. How does this affect the pharma companies? Does it?
Well, they're looking at the space, right? Tilray has a deal with Novartis, I want to say it is?
They have a deal with Novartis, and they also just signed a new deal with Intelligenics today, which is a very small Canadian company, but now they have medical delivery method completely settled.
So if you're a pharma company, are you worried right now?
I think it depends on what drugs you have. I mean, Bruce Linton has come on the record. First off, the other reason I like Canopy is he has said, don't look at us as just selling marijuana. He said the way he puts it in the investor presentation from August, which you can check out on their site, is look at marijuana or cannabis as a disruptive ingredient. So they're not just selling the leaves, they're retooling it. I mean, there's over 1,000 different substances within marijuana once you really start to break it down, and all of those are going to have different different use cases. But he's come out saying that they're working on something to compete with Ambien. So, if he's targeting a sleeping pill that you're not going to be able to overdose on, you don't really have to worry about it, killing you if you take too much.
Right.
It really depends. If you're investing in a pharma company, I would say it depends where are their sales coming from. If it's appetite stimulants for chemotherapy, for example, everyone knows marijuana and the munchies.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an organic, natural alternative to whatever they have on the market today. If you're talking sleeping pills, I mean, you can overdose on sleeping pills. And, you're not really going to overdose on marijuana.
Right.
I mean, I don't think there's even one documented case.
There's an ETF, a cannabis ETF.
Mm-hmm.
There are ways to get in this space. Before we close out right now, Kevin, would you, if you had money to spare, put money in this stuff right now?
Well, I think that it's difficult. I think an ETF is probably a good idea based upon spreading the risk around. As we've said, there's a number of companies that might not survive this type of .com environment. I think that we've established which companies we think are the blue chips.
Right, clearly.
But I do think if you're a speculative player and you don't really know as much, you don't have as much time to pour through the documents as Zev and I do, an ETF might be your best bet.
That's a good point.
The only pushback I would have on that is my issue with ETFs, and I think, is you can kind of look at the semiconductor ETF right now, which is full of secular and cyclical plays.
Yeah.
So NVIDIA, it's not doing well today, but it was doing good, but Micron was getting hit real bad. And the problem with the marijuana ETF, in my opinion, is because we've said that there are so many companies out there that we think are just going to disintegrate, you're getting exposure to that as well. Personally,
so it's a risk.
There is a risk.
Well, this is a risky industry.
It's a huge risk right now.
Personally, what I would do is pick your four favorite plays and spread the risk evenly. Go a little Canopy, left for Tilray to come in, Aurora, which Coke has put interest in. That's what I would do. But again, as Kevin said, that's a bit of a more active approach.
You got to work at it. Or you could just read these guys on thestreet.com because they're following it. And of course, Real Money. AAP puts stuff out all the time. Follow these guys. This is definitely not going anywhere. Again, much to my dismay as a mother. Thank you both.